Hello again. Now let's continue with the unwrapping of our chair. So this is the latest version that we did. So if you remember, we did a copy just as a backup. So let's go ahead and isolate our latest version. So Alt+Q to do that. And we should already have this modifier on, which is the Unwrap UVW. I'm going to go for the interactive method. Let's go all the way down here and select the peel mode. Okay, so let's start selecting our seams. First of all, for this seat, I want to have 3 different pieces. The first one is going to be this top face. The second one is going to be this bottom face. And finally, the horizontal strip that I want to create for this side here so that the mapping is not vertical, but it's actually going horizontal. Okay, so let's start cutting. Make sure again that you have your edge selection on. And just by double clicking on it, it's going to create a loop. So I'm actually going to select the exterior edge here. And I'm going to do the same thing down here, like so. I'm going to go to my edit UVW and just pack normalize. Okay, so we can clearly see here we have the top face of our seat, the bottom side of our seat, and also this side here, which is this whole strip. Now one thing is that if we go to our Corona color correct texture, this is going to be very hard to map if we have this strip as a kind of like a ring shaped geometry. So we have to split it too, so that we can actually map it correctly and rotate it vertical or horizontal, whichever way we're going to be wanting it. So for this, I'm going to just create another seam at the middle here so that I create one whole strip like so. But this is actually too large and I'm going to want it to split it in half too. I'm going to go over to this side and cut it like this. Now you can see that I end up with 2 strips, making this the first half strip, which is in this side, and the second half of it over in this side. Now I can just align them and then turn them vertical so that it follows the actual texture. Okay, so let's keep on going. Now the second easiest to cut is this back support here. Again, I want to have the front side, the back side, and maybe just cut this side, this strip, into 2, just like we did down here. I'm going to pick this edge, double click, and now this back edge, again, double click it. Now I'm going to split this in half by cutting this one like so, and down here too. So one thing to keep in mind is that if I want to select through a wireframe mode, I can't. So for this, I'm going to go to my selection tab, and in here we can see that the select by is turned on. So we have to disable the ignore back facing. Now I can just cut it through my wireframe, and let's just pack normalize again, just to see how everything is doing. And so far so good. All right, for the next parts, and if you remember that I told you that when we're using this peel mode, which is an interactive way of cutting our surfaces, we can't really use a Ctrl-Z. So for these parts that are a bit more hard to do, I'm going to disable my peel mode and go ahead and make it the other way. So I'm just going to first select my edges and then convert it to seams, so that if I make any mistake, I can actually unselect my edges and go back a step. So let's close our editor, and now let's select the edges. For this piece in here, I can actually cut it again into 3 pieces. So I'm going to have my front face, my back face, and then again the strip that is actually surrounding it. Now for this method, we have to press the Ctrl key to keep selecting our edges. So I'm going to just double click there while holding the Ctrl key, and I'm going to separate this surface from the rest. Now the back surface. Make sure to actually leave this symmetrical. So I'm going to double click here and double click over here. Okay, so I have one face there, one face over here, and now the strip. Once again, I'm going to just cut it in here so that it doesn't leave me with a long strip there. And notice that I just made a mistake, and if I were using my peel mode, this would have been something very hard to go back to. So because I'm not, I can just unselect it with my Alt key. I'm going to now cut it through here. Ctrl Z if you just loop it by accident. Alright, now let's turn this edge selection to seams. So down here in peel, convert edge selection to seam, and we can quick peel it and pack normalize again. So here it's our surface. This is the first face, or the front face, if you will, and this is the other back face. So this is the two methods that we can use. Take advantage of both of them. If you find yourself doing a very easy geometry, you can use the interactive way. And if you have multiple meshes, like in this piece right here, it's better if you go to the older method. So let's close this. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the piece over here. So again, make sure that you have your edge selected, and let's go ahead and select this. So let's go ahead and select this face. Don't double click, because that will just loop it, and we don't really want to loop this. Actually, I can go a little bit. Can I go one more level down here? Yes, I can. Let's just pick this bottom edge so that we separate this face right here. Okay, there we go. Now the other face, the same way. I can actually double click just to loop this bit here. Make sure that we leave in it as a symmetry. And I actually didn't select this in the right way. And there's actually a symmetry option here. Symmetrical geometry selection, as you can see. However, this can slow down your PC in some cases, so I prefer not to use it. And because I am also recording, I don't really want that to happen. It's also a good practice just to do it this way so that you can get a bit more familiar with this. Now again, if you can't select the edges at the back, make sure that you have this option as ignore back facing. Okay, now we're ready to just convert these edges into seams. So let's go down here, convert edge selection to seam, and let's just quick peel it. Okay, pack normalize, and here are our faces. Now remember to just create another seam at the top part and also at the bottom. Now let's convert this edges to seams and quick peel it like so. Alright, so now with the back legs here, I actually want to have these top parts separate. And the same thing with this bottom part over here. And the rest we could cut it once. So first of all, let's just create a provisional seam here at the top and also in here. And let's go to the bottom like so. Now for this longer part, I only want to select this edge here. Like this. So I end up with only one surface that covers this whole leg, and the same thing with this one over here. Okay, like so. Now let's go and convert these edges to seams once again. Quick peel and just pack normalize to see if everything is working out okay. Alright, so I end up with these faces, which are the top parts, or they could actually be the bottom parts. These are actually our top parts right here. Okay, now let's do the same thing for the front legs. So let's create a seam down here and a seam up here. The same thing with this side. And be careful not to be selecting the ones at the back, so Alt to unselect and just loop it like this. We also have to be careful where we cut it. So in this case, I'm going to select the back edge over here because I don't want the seam to be visible. So I want it at the back over here. The same thing with this leg, don't want the seam to be visible. All right, now that I have everything selected, the same process and peel it. Okay, so we're almost done here. We only need to work on these two railings at our lateral sides. Okay, let's close this, and these ones are going to be not that tricky. So let's separate the face again. Make sure not to be selecting any of the back edges there. So I'm actually going to select this option. There we go. Now let's go to the other side and separate this face too. Okay, we can actually just double click that bit there. Or can we? We cannot double click there. So be careful with that because it's going to loop it and just split everything apart. We don't want that. There we go. Let's go for the other side before converting these edges to seams. Make sure to just have everything as symmetrical as possible. Okay, now this side over here, finally. Okay, because we have so many edges, it can get a little bit annoying, but it's just the way it is. You just have to be careful with this. There we go. Okay, we have the seams now, and we actually have to cut the side so that we don't end up with a very long strip. So I'm just going to cut it up here. Okay, like this, and maybe also at the bottom part. Like so. Okay, the same thing with the other one. So I'm going to just cut this strip down here. And also at the top part. There we go. Now let's go and convert these edges to seams and quick peel them. Now let's just pack everything up. Alright, so we finished cutting this model. Now the next step that we have to take is just to align all of our faces. For this, I'm just going to go ahead and pick the edge. So double click on them, make sure that you don't have the snap toggles on, and in this quick transform tab, we can actually align to edge. Alright, so now we have to do the same thing for all of them. So let's go first for our strips here. So let's select one of the edges and align to edge. So if I just press my F3, I can see that this is actually this side of the strip. And now it is mapped correctly. Okay, so let's make sure that all of them are like so. I'm going to select this edge here and align it. I can do the same thing for all of them. Now basically I want all of them to face vertically so that our mapping makes sense. But we also need to be careful not to be rotating it in the wrong direction. Okay, let's go for these guys over here, which are the bottom strips. So let's just align them. These guys are the faces, but I don't want them to be facing vertically, but at this time horizontally. So let's just flip them up here with this tool. Now again, align it. And let's just flip it 90 degrees. Now, which one is this strip? Is all the way up here. So notice that we have a problem with this strip is that it's not really flat. So we need to flatten this. And the way to do that is that if we go ahead and select our polygon and then our element, we can select the whole thing. And I have these reshape elements tab. So if I go ahead and straighten the selection, it's going to give me a straight strip like so. Now the only thing that I have to do is just to rotate it 90 degrees. So you can do that with the ones that are not aligning properly. So let's go over to this guy over here. And obviously I want to rotate this one because I'm sure that it's one of the very thin strips that we have. Let's go over to this one. And let's make sure that this is in the correct direction, which is not. So we need to flip it 90 degrees. Let's unselect the edge so that everything updates. Let's go over to this one. So align it and rotate it. And these guys are actually not going to be very visible, but still we have to do our best to create a good mapping. So this one we'll have to use the custom rotation just to make it vertical. This one is fine. Let's go over to this guy over here. We have the same problem with this strip, so we have to select all of the polygon and straighten selection. We also have to rotate it. Now let's head over to this guy here, and with the edge selection, make sure that you don't have the element selected there. Double click on it and align it. Now we have the same problem with this one. Let's see if we can actually just flatten it with our straighten selection, and no. Okay, so we have a problem with this one. We can try another method. So if we go to the relax custom option and just press it, let's go into its settings. Notice that I'm inside the relax by polygon angles selection. By default, you should see the unfold 3D optimize. But in this case, I just want to relax the polygon by the angles. So for this, I'm going to just go for a 1.0 in amount. And to start off, let's go for a 0.1 in the stretch amount. Let's apply this and notice how it keeps stretching. So this is actually very helpful for when we can't really use this option, which is the straighten selection. It also gives us a better result when unwrapping. So let's go ahead and now try the alignment. Let's select the element and just go ahead and select one of the edges like so. And align to edge. Okay, let's just rotate it. And move it up here. All right, let's keep on moving. And now let's go for these parts here. Let's just align to edge. And if we want to go a step further, we can also use our relax option. So let's go ahead and go inside our settings here and just apply it. Okay, so that we end up with a more flat surface. Okay, that would do it. Don't worry about this growing. We can always go pack normalize again, like so. Okay, so let's keep aligning all of our surfaces here. Double click on our edge, align them and rotate it. We also need to apply the relax to this one. So let's go ahead and open our settings again and just apply it. We don't want to keep the boundary points fixed because this will just reduce the effect of the stretching. Okay, now I can just align it without selecting the whole element, of course. Align it like so and rotate it. Okay, let's just pack and normalize everything again. And we're almost done there. Let's just align the ones that are left. This guy too. I actually want to rotate both of these. And final pack normalize. Okay, great. So now we're done aligning all of them. And the next thing to do is just to check that everything is properly aligned within our actual chair. Turn the edges off with the F4 key. Okay, so all of our mapping seems to be okay. However, let's see what happens when we add a turbo smooth. So the UVW mapping of this chair is not going to change at all, so it's practically just fixed in this specific object now that we've applied the Unwrap UVW and made all of our process. But let's see what happens when the turbo smooth comes in. Notice that down here our texture has been stretched. Okay, so let's go into an F4 just to see what happened. And the thing is that from the faces that we unwrapped in our edit UV, it's actually stretching all the way over here when we add a turbo smooth. And this is going to be noticeable even when we render it. So what we need to do is just to add some loop supports for this texture not to be stretched like this. Alright, let's delete the turbo smooth and actually create a copy of this. Now because we have the Unwrap UVW all nicely done, we can collapse it. So right click, convert to and edit poly. Again, if I add a turbo smooth, I'll still have that problem. So let's add some extra loop supports. Let's press the X key and Swift loop. And where we need these loops are down here so that the face that we just mapped, its texture doesn't stretch. So I need the loop over here as close as possible and also down here really close to that mapping. I'm just going to add another one just to keep everything under control there, and the same thing over here. We need to add this in all four. Okay. Now let's go ahead and add a turbo smooth. And we can see that that problem is no longer there. We can actually go for more iterations. So the more iterations that we add, the more our texture is going to stretch. But it's not noticeable because I just added some loops in here, which is keeping everything under control. However, we can see the same thing happening up here. So let's just delete our turbo smooth and add some extra loops. One in here and one as close as we can up here. Again, the same thing on this side. And the same thing up here. The good thing is that we have a well-modeled mesh, so it's letting us just add these loops easy. We should do the same thing over to this side too, just to keep everything again under control there. Okay. Okay, let's try the turbo smooth once more. Alright, down here, what we could have done to make this a little bit more smoother is to grab our face up here. So we just separated it down here. Could have been a tiny mistake there, but it's not really noticeable if it's under the seat. What was really messing our nice chair was this bottom caps that were stretching all the way up there. But overall, it looks very clean. You can see how we fix all of our mapping, like so. Okay everyone, as always, thank you so much for listening. In the next lecture, we're going to be developing advanced materials for this chair. So I'll see you then.